you just tell me, can you hear me and see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Perfect. All right, so my name is Emily White. I'm the Regional Facility Manager for Region 3. I've been in this position for about 2 years. Before that, I was a regional coordinator for 2 years before. But honestly, most importantly, was 10 years ago, I was in the position that you folks are in now. So 10 years ago exactly, I was sitting down in Killington for spring training as a newly hired assistant manager at Grand Isle State Park. So it feels a little weird 10 years later to be here presenting. I definitely didn't expect I would be here, but I'm really happy I am. So I'm going to give John a second to introduce himself, and then we'll keep moving.
I'm John Meadows, Region 4's facility manager. And at that training 10 years ago, Emily, that was my first training as a facility manager. So that's kind of cool. And now we're doing it together. So yeah, happy to be here, and let's get started.
Cool. So we've got a lot to cover today, but we'll do it briefly because we're really hoping that people are going to throw some questions and comments in the chat and keep it lively. We'll be talking a little bit about our maintenance program, describing how our regional maintenance staff interact and interface with you folks to keep our parks operational. We're going to talk about grounds and equipment a little bit, specifically expectations regarding safety and proper use of equipment. Then finally, we'll transition to some bigger picture stuff regarding facilities and grounds, specifically standards, and how they work as a whole within our park system. So I also just want to acknowledge this is the session after lunch. It's always a little bit challenging in this session, but again, we'd love to have some interaction. Please ask questions in the chat. I will say also, I got my second COVID shot yesterday, which I'm really psyched about, but I am feeling just beat today. So I'm planning to steal a bunch of energy from you folks, and I hope you can help with that. We've also decided to sweeten the deal. We're going to have a competition to see which park contributes the most, and that park will be awarded a case of seltzer, name brand, for their participation today. All right, let's get going. And John, I will hand it over to you.
Okay. Meet your maintenance team and how we work and the kind of the structure, how it works. There's the regional facility manager, which is Emily and myself. And each region now, I believe, has a maintenance foreman, which oversees the maintenance techs, the permanent maintenance technicians, and the seasonal maintenance technicians. And there's also the regional coordinator, which is overseen by the regional facility manager. And that whole group, that whole team is overseen by the regional manager. And in Region 4, it's Susan Bulmer. In Region 3, it's Rob Peterson. Region 2, Ruben Allen. And Region 1 would be Ethan Phelps. And that's how that kind of structures down. Some regions have a licensed trade person, an electrician or a plumber as well. And that is part of your maintenance technician team. What do we do all winter? We do a bunch of stuff this winter. Wintertime is actually pretty busy. Between cleaning up hazard trees, shutting down systems, and getting into our facilities to upgrade for the upcoming year, being seasonal housing, contact stations, lean-to roofing, whatever, all sorts of stuff, capital improvement projects. And in some regions, there's plenty of snow to be plowed as well. The maintenance staff does a really great job fixing and repairing our equipment, which is a vital piece of a vital tool for you to do your job to make our parks look awesome for park visitors. So that takes up a considerable amount of time in the wintertime. And so we rely on that hard work, and we rely on you guys to do a good job with your daily maintenance and keeping those equipment up to snuff for us. It helps us in the long run. Can you go next, Emily? There you go. Roles and responsibilities during the operating season. The park manager and staff will be required to do any necessary work to keep the park in orderly condition. All daily maintenance should be handled by the park manager and staff to the extent that material, skill, and regulations allow. Clean, safe, and well-maintained facilities leave a good public impression, which will encourage visitors to return. And also, like, them themselves will take better care of being in a lean-to. Maybe they won't put as many nails in a lean-to. Who knows? Sanitation within a recreational area is of prime importance, particularly the toilet buildings. Park manager must plan the daily work schedule so the heaviest workload of maintenance occurs during periods when public use is at the minimum, usually in the morning hours of each day and during midweek periods. It's really important that, like, we think of park visitor experience as like a deciding factor in how we schedule work. It doesn't always work out perfectly, we know that, but we do our best and at least keep that mindset. The park manager is responsible for assigning the work to their staff and ensuring it is completed thoroughly and professionally. And by all means, if you need assistance from your maintenance team, reach out to the foreman, the facility manager, or your assigned maintenance technician.
Yeah, and just to add on a little bit, when we talk about, daily routine maintenance should be handled by the park manager and staff to the extent that material, skill, and regulations allow. That's really important. And I know that line can seem a little blurry, but we're talking about generally is, for example, park staff are responsible for changing light bulbs, but we don't ask park staff to change out breakers. In fact, we don't want park staff to change out breakers. Park staff are responsible for cleaning bathrooms, but they're not responsible for entering the crawl space underneath bathrooms to fix leaks, for example. And where that, sorry, John, one second. Where that line falls tends to be a little bit different park to park based on the skill, based on your skill and the skill of your staff.
And there is kind of a hierarchy of who can do what. And for example, a breaker should be removed and installed under the oversight of a licensed electrician. So that's important that we follow those. That's a code. That's a NEC code requirement. So it's important that we adhere to that. And when in doubt, ask a question. Reach out and hit us up.
Yeah, we like answering questions. We would much rather answer a question before something happens than have to handle the aftermath after it does. So I'd like to walk you folks through just a quick example of the interaction between regional maintenance staff and park staff. This example may look familiar to a few of you. It certainly is something that happens occasionally. So I figured it would both be a good example of how everyone from maintenance contributes, how the park manager and park staff contribute. So I'm just going to read this out to you folks. It's Friday morning. So imagine you're working in a campground, right? Let's say it's August, it's nice and sunny. You can kind of smell someone cooking bacon over a campfire nearby. It's awesome, right? You've sent your attendants out to clean bathrooms for the morning. And they notice that the lawn behind a toilet building, which is normally dry, has a bunch of standing water, like a lot of standing water. They come back to the contact station and mention it to you, which first, huge thumbs up to park attendants. If they notice something like this and mention it to you, that's awesome. So what do? And I'd like to see, there's not just one thing, so I'd like to see a couple responses in the chat, and I'm hoping Ryan will read some to me.
I got from Burton Island, investigate the source if safe to do so.
Awesome. Anything else?
We got turn off the water. We got another investigate. Check for any visible leaks. Call maintenance from Nathan and Steph. Uh-oh, they're going fast now. Take a look at the situation. Make technician
Everyone wants
aware.
that seltzer.
Check out if a person potentially take a picture and send to operations manager for advice. Contact maintenance about possible line breakage. Don't panic.
Don't panic. Great. Wow, you guys covered it. So yeah, first thing is ideally investigate the situation. We in maintenance kind of prefer if the communication comes from the park manager. It's not always possible, and we understand that. But it just allows kind of a easy line of communication between the manager or assistant managers and maintenance staff. So investigate yourself. Granted, if your attendants come down to the contact station and say like, oh man, the roof is on fire, like you can call 911 on your way up there. That's fine. But if conditions allow, investigate yourself. We also don't want you putting yourself in harm's way. And I think Burton Island maybe mentioned that. So in a situation like this, there's a mysterious liquid behind a toilet building. Things you can do: look with your eyes. Do any investigation. Don't lick it, for example. Don't stick your hands in it. Top choices are it's probably drinking water or wastewater, and we don't want you exposing yourself to contaminants in wastewater. That said, I know someone else said smell, which is really good. That's a great way to tell the difference. And then super importantly, contact your maintenance technician. This is considered an emergency, so there is a emergency protocol after hours. We carry pagers during the summer on weekends to ensure, or during the season on weekends to ensure that someone is available. Let's see if I touched on. And also just ensure you're following the instructions that your maintenance technician gives you regarding this stuff. For example, they will probably, in a situation like this, they'll probably tell you, especially if you really can't tell if it's water, if it's drinking water or wastewater, they'll tell you to cordon off the area just to make sure that we don't have our visitors interacting with whatever it is. And then someone else said pictures and videos. That's awesome. If you're investigating a situation, photos and videos are super helpful. In our region, we are lucky that we actually have somewhat okay cell service in some places, which I know is better than what most people have. If you can manage it, FaceTime has been awesome for us because your maintenance technician can just walk you right through some things. Any information we can get ahead of time means we can have a faster response for whatever the situation is. I mentioned already, follow instructions from your maintenance technician, especially regarding hazard mitigation. So a similar situation to this happened at Grand Isle last summer. This is my buddy Jamie Reed, our maintenance technician. If you are at Lake Carmi or Underhill, you know him well, or you will know him well. This was him digging up and fixing the leak. We were able to determine from where the location of the leak was and knowing the condition of the pipes that it was a drinking water leak, not a wastewater leak. Unfortunately, we did not have a shutoff valve available to shut this line off. So in this case, Jamie investigated, realized it was a substantial leak in the water line that feeds a nearby spigot. Jamie, as a maintenance technician, has the ability to call the maintenance foreman for backup, and the maintenance foreman's job is either to come to help or to send another technician. Digging up a line by yourself is not a lot of fun, so we generally try and work in groups of 2 for stuff like that. Every region has a regional coordinator, and their job in a situation like this would be to handle any supply and equipment needs for the work. So if there's a shared tractor, they probably are the ones who know best where the tractor is located. They can order additional saddles to fix the leak. They can order grass seed for the park, etc. So the technician and foreman, or the 2 technicians, or the 1 technician, if they're really unlucky, get a saddle on the line to stop the leak, and then they notify the facility managers, so me and John, that the pipe is starting to disintegrate and should be replaced soon. In this instance, the pipe is in really, really bad shape, and we were chasing leaks all summer. So what happened is that the water line replacement project for this section of the park moved up the queue for replacement, and it's actually being replaced this fall, which is really exciting.
Can I chime in for a quick second?
Yeah.
All right. You saw that picture of Jamie up there. Your maintenance techs do a lot of really awesome work for you guys, and most of it is behind the scenes and undercover. So be nice to those guys. They work hard for you guys to keep your parks looking great. And shout out to our guys that do that stuff. It's good thing it was drinking water and not septic. Here we go. All right, staff roles. Oh, this is you, Emily.
Yeah,
still.
this is me.
All right, sorry.
Oh, no worries. So essentially, bullet points to go through on this section. We all have a role to play in maintaining facilities and grounds in a park. Basic maintenance such as cleaning, plunging toilets, changing light bulbs, resetting signposts, lopping back brush, mowing, weed whacking, basic landscaping, and painting are the responsibility of the park manager and park staff based on material availability, skill, and comfort level, plus applicable regulations. There is an asterisk on painting because there are some regulations regarding lead paint, preparation of lead paint surfaces. So that's one that you should have a conversation with your maintenance staff before you start prepping surfaces and painting surfaces. Major maintenance and any maintenance requiring licensure, specialized or advanced knowledge, tools, or equipment is the responsibility of regional maintenance staff. And John mentioned too, we try and plan our maintenance work so it happens and is the least disruptive possible during the season. So that's something to keep in mind too. You may not see a ton of major maintenance projects happening, especially during the height of the season. We try to avoid that. A lot of the times, honestly, our maintenance technicians are busy fixing emergency breaks and equipment and stuff like that, rather than taking on large projects during the season. And your maintenance technician, honestly, all the maintenance staff is a resource for any questions you have. And when in doubt, please ask.
Grounds and equipment overview. This is the nuts and bolts. A large portion of your job involves supervision of the groundskeeping in your park. We know that, like, if our park looks good, people are coming on the weekend, they want to feel like they're in a good spot. And like, we have some really beautiful parks, and a lot of that goes to the work you guys do and shining them up. Different parks have a different size and composition, lead to different equipment needs. So that being said, take care of your equipment. We have a fleet of string trimmers and backpack blowers and push mowers, larger equipment, our riding mowers, our zero turns. We're relying on you guys to be to stay on top of it. The standard across our park system is neat, tidy, and professional appearance, and do the best we can to do that. Getting equipment back that's not cleaned out at the end of the year, or I guess the next slide will get into that. So if you want to go into that. Why is equipment training and proper equipment use so important? Number one is safety, not only for the employee, but also for our park visitors. We have people of all age groups, and they're coming to have fun and hang out with their families, and it's your job to look out for their best interests and make sure that you're operating your equipment safely. We're in the public eye, and also we put a lot of money into our equipment budget and having the best equipment we can provide for you guys. So this also helps with longevity of the equipment. Use the equipment for what it's for.
Hey, John, do you want to tell your public eye story?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's right. So a few years ago, I pulled up to a local hardware store, and the owner of the store came out and was like, "How's my car doing?" So it's really important that we understand that we're working for the public. They have some ownership in our parks and our equipment, as being quote unquote being taxpayers. So it's important that we remember that and represent well. And that includes, for now, wearing your mask when you go into those stores, having your car, just be cognizant of that.
Hey, John and Emily, I had a couple of questions asking about whether or not leaf blowers are allowed during the open season.
Go ahead, John.
I believe no. That's a preseason task.
It's something you can clarify with your ops manager, but generally for day use parks, leaf blowers are only allowed before they open in the morning, and for campgrounds, we try and keep gas-powered leaf blowers out during the season.
Yes.
Great, thank you.
No staff are authorized to use equipment until properly trained. Training of park managers happens through regional staff. Training of all other staff is responsibility of the park manager. So safety. Oh man, I'm having a hard time reading this, man. But yes, so we have a regional training, as most regions do, getting park managers up to speed on where we're at with our equipment. Always reach out to your maintenance staff, technicians, if you need help and some advice on training your park attendants. Remember to operate with the proper PPE and be familiar with the daily maintenance and proper use of the equipment.
Yeah, and I'll add to it, it's an OSHA standard that people are trained on equipment before they use it. So that's why we do what we do.
Hey, Emily, Lake Carmi was asking if assistant managers, if delegated, can train attendants on equipment.
Absolutely. When I say managers, or when we say managers, we are referring to assistants as well as managers, and that even can run to lead attendants potentially, depending on their own comfort level with the equipment.
Okay, equipment safety. First and foremost, have to wear your personal protective equipment. Hard hats when required, reflective vests when required, eye protection, hearing protection, closed-toed shoes. You can't be weed whacking, mowing, backpack blowing in, Tevas or Keen's, sandals, and long pants as well. I mean, you can do some damage or hurt somebody with airborne debris from a weed whacker, a backpack blower, or a lawnmower. There are safety data sheets on the database on the staff website. I encourage you to look at those and make sure you know what you're handling as far as gas, oil, stuff like that. Operational awareness. This is really important. Only use the equipment and tools for their intended purpose. Like we should not be moving picnic tables with lawn tractors. Be very careful. Know your parks. Like walk through your parks. Know where that curb stop is. Know how close you can get to a certain rock or a barbecue grill, and know the lay of the land of your park. Be aware of people. Be aware of kids running haphazardly or absentmindedly through a parking lot, while you're weed whacking, and just be careful. Have your wits around you. Like, you shouldn't be wearing headphones with music cranking in them. Be aware of, if, for example, and this happens, you're weed whacking through a parking lot. Be aware where the cars are parked, and am I going to fling debris towards these cars, because we could end up paying for a cracked windshield or some body work that gets damaged if it can be found out it was done by operator error of our equipment. So just be aware of your surroundings and wear your proper PPE. Oh, one last thing on that. I'm going to put this out here because this happens. I see it. Be mindful when you're weed whacking. Just come up in a equipment tray. I'm going to plant the seed now. Be mindful of where you're weed whacking around trees, and not to tag them as you go. All right, we have a little video here. This is a real life example of what potentially could happen very realistically in our parks.
This foam is soft enough that it should easily show it.
The motors when Jamie was a kid didn't even have wheels. They had a really interesting name. They were called, what was it? Oh, goats.
Okay, well, let's see if this thing starts up.
Modern metal mowers have debris deflection more than covered with this spring-loaded safety flap.
Nothing came out. We gotta pull that door.
But Adam and Jamie want to know what happens in the worst case scenario.
It seems like the safety features work beautifully, but as you know on Mythbusters, that's never stopped us. The first order of business: remove this little door with the word danger on it. There we go. Safety feature removed.
With the mower now poorly maintained, the opening on the right-hand side means any debris propelled by the blades will hit the styrofoam targets. Adam, standing behind the mower, should be safe.
What's going to happen? Well, one thing's for certain. Unless you're wearing hockey armor, you don't want to stand in front of the opening to that mower.
I don't want to do this anymore. This is terrifying. I start the mower, and I get into a rhythm. It's the most terrifying rhythm I've ever been in. I actually ended up by turning my entire body away from this rain, this shower, this firestorm of little tiny pebbles. One even flew up in the air and landed on my hat. And I can't even picture the physics required for that to occur. Good Lord! I ran out of steam, and that is fine with me. Here, I'm no expert with cameras, but that's bad. Am I right? That's bad? I don't ever want to be behind a mower doing that again.
While Adam was behind the mower, out of the line of fire.
I'm really sorry about that. I apologize here. I'll put that right there.
A veritable firestorm of stones and ricochets meant no one was safe.
Come here. Oh my gosh. Hit.
With the foam onlookers peppered,
That went all the way through.
Wow.
the myth that a lawnmower can fling rocks at bullet-like force is clearly on the right track.
It threw this. That's heavy. With enough force to embed itself in this. I mean, I know that it's foam, but this is... I'm amazed.
So there's evidence the ballistic fallout is significant. But the Heinemann can't resist ramping it up.
This thing here is what you call a premium domestic lawnmower. It's a ride-on, and it's made to mow lawns fast. It's fun.
That's beautiful.
With an engine 4 times more powerful,
Jamie, are you ready?
I'm ready.
how much more havoc will Jamie wreak?
3, 2, 1, go! Oh no.
I brought in the riding lawnmower and picked up where Adam left off.
Oh my God! Stop!
As you can see, there are no rocks left where I mowed.
So that was kind of a lesson in what not to do. Number one, don't remove or alter your safety chute or other safety features on your equipment. Always wear your PPE. And the exit velocity of a rock out of a riding lawnmower is approximately 400 feet per second, which comes down to 273 miles an hour. That can do some serious damage. So, as John said, be aware of your surroundings. If you're mowing a roadside, be careful you're not chucking rocks at oncoming cars, and just respect the equipment and the safety features.
I have a real life story of a former coworker of mine that actually lost an eye of getting a shard of rock from someone chipping rock doing trail work, and she didn't have safety glasses in, and shard came off and hit her eye, and she doesn't have that eye anymore. So wear your glasses. Wear your PPE.
Speaking of PPE, we had a question of whether or not long pants are required on a ride-on or zero-turn mower.
I believe yes, they are.
And then a follow-up question about PPE. What situation or equipment is a hard hat required if you're not covering that later?
That's a good question. That's a good question. Like, we don't expect it for, we'll have to follow up on that.
Yeah, so a hard hat would be required if there's a chance of you getting hit in the head or falling objects. So
Pole
if
saw.
if you're using a pole saw, also if you're entering a contractor's construction zone, you are required to wear a hard hat and safety vest.
Emily, we had a question about whether or not my lovely sunglasses count as eye protection.
It depends. The majority of sunglasses do not. They will be stamped with a John. I don't know if you remember this number or not. It's a Z, I believe Z87.
Yes, I believe so. ANZI 87.
ANSI Z87, which is the ANSI standard for protective eyewear.
And we have plenty of shaded and clear, sunglass and clear eye protection sunglasses, and a couple different styles as well. Reach out to your park managers, reach out to your regional coordinator, and we can get that to you. It should all be in stock at your park.
Lake Carmine put out a great video that I'm just going to tag, or a great comment that there is a video of our very own Safety Sandy going over appropriate PPE for various equipment located on the employee portal if you go to our training videos.
Awesome. All right, park equipment. Why did this happen? How could it be avoided? How to remedy the situation? Like I mentioned earlier, we rely on park staff to really do the best on their daily cleaning and maintenance, for the longevity of our equipment. So how do you think this happened? Question to the group. Tree limbs. Ran over a rock. Reckless driving on the lawnmower. There we go. I'm doing your job, Ryan. Sorry.
Go for it.
But yeah, I mean, a lot of those things are keyed. That could happen. Agnes, you're right. We could have some monkey wrenchers out here. Yeah, just pay attention of what you're doing. Goes back to situational awareness and being focused on what you're doing, not getting too close to those grills or picnic tables. And by all means, please report when stuff like this happens. Not as a punitive measure and by any means, but for us so we can get the piece of equipment repaired or replaced as soon as possible so you guys can do your job. That's the bottom line right there. And so please take that to heart. Here's an example of a piece of equipment that was returned to the shop. Why did this happen? Oof. Must be from the Midwest. Oofta. Right. Yep. Those are all good. This is a real life example, So, and I know, like, someone's feeling super lazy. That could be it, but it's also like after you've been powering through and weed whacking or mowing all day long, we all get there where we just like put in the garage and, next man up, just try to really do your job and do your responsibility. In the long run, it makes it easier for you. because you may be on the flip side of that morning getting a piece of equipment where the guy the day before didn't clean it out. So just make time to do it. You know, make time within your day to do it. It's part of your job expectations.
Hey, John, what's that round thing on the left photo?
That would be an air filter, and then like a foam pre-filter on it. So it's really easy. You take the air filter off. You can, if you have just bang it out on the side of a tree. You know, don't do it on the side of a building, please. That leaves dust and looks like crap until next rainfall. You know, bang it out as best you can. If you have a air compressor, you know, you could blow it out and then blow out the air filter and put it back in. And by all means, clean out the deck. That could get into the belts. You could potentially start a fire there with the friction of the belts and the leaves in there.
Hey, John, I'm going to skip this one and just go to the last one if you're good with that.
Yep, sounds good.
There we go.
I haven't switched yet for me. Oh, there we go. Park equipment. Here's another example. Like how do you think this happened? Oh. So actually what happened here was someone was driving a little bit too quickly in a park and wasn't paying attention and rolled it. I believe the truck was on its side. This is the white truck, one on the right I'm referring to. So here again, situational awareness. You know, you're in a park, there's people walking, not paying attention to you, so we need to pay extra attention to them. The truck on the left, this is a pretty common one. I've actually done this myself. I've thrown a piece of firewood through the back of a window. So be cognizant of that, and please let us know as soon as possible so we can get it replaced and allow you guys to do your job.
Yeah, I'll add a little bit to the truck on the right situation, because this was a serious situation and we're really lucky that nobody got hurt. This was a person who was driving too fast for conditions at night, missed a turn and went over an embankment, turning the truck on its side. Then unfortunately, instead of reporting it, they tried to drag it out themselves and made the matter much worse. So I think kind of the overreaching point of showing these slides is both to tell you to, you know, respect your equipment, maintain it properly, and if you have issues, please, please, please report it to us. We're not going to be mad at you, but we are going to be upset if we find out issues have been hidden from us.
Yeah, and also just stuff happens, you know?
Yeah.
Stuff just happens, you know? So, all right, in summary, safety, your safety, our safety, park visitor safety, the public, that's our number one priority, you know, and our jobs have to be dictated around that. Learn about your equipment, learn about your parks, know where those, you know, hidden curb stops are, where those, you know, wet spots are that are mossy that you don't want to drive a lawn tractor through. You know, understand those areas, take care of your equipment, and please report all issues in the best possible. Tag your equipment. Tag your equipment when it's down and briefly explain what the issue is. Quite often a piece of equipment shows up at the shop here that needs repair and the tag is missing, or it's really unclear, or it just says whatever park it came from, not giving any little inkling of where to start troubleshooting. So be clear and concise as best as possible so we can help you do your job.
Thanks, John. So I want to jump into the last section, which is park standards. And I'd love for you folks to throw in the chat a couple examples of what visitors see when they first enter your park. And I'll start off with an example. And the reason I chose park entrances is because they're essentially like they're the gateway right to our parks. to relaxation, to a vacation. For me last year, it was I frequented a few of our local parks regularly because it was a safe place for me to hang out, physically distanced from some friends that I otherwise wouldn't be able to see. So it should elicit positive thoughts and memories, right? I can picture when I was a kid, I used to camp at Lake Carmi every summer. That was where my family always went camping. And still, when I drive down the entrance, when I turn left and drive down the entrance road into the park, that feeling comes back. And I think Rebecca talked about that a little bit too. All of our parks are really different. So an example I can give would be Grand Isle. I can picture driving into the park. You go through the four-way intersection. On your right are these nice big pine trees. There's a dump station. There's a flagpole, a flower garden, some old gates. There's a toilet building. I'd love to hear if anybody has thrown in some of the things they see when they first enter their park. And if not, I'll give you a minute. Anything good coming in, John or Ryan?
Got a whole bunch of stuff for standards. We've got, I'm going to go up to the top and kind of go through. We have no trash, a flowery entrance, clean cut lawn with a well painted sign and organized flower bed. We have no tree limbs hanging onto the road, maintained signage. We have contact station keeps coming up. More flower beds.
Awesome.
And,
Awesome. So yeah, all of our park entrances are different. All of our parks have different natural landscapes. So how do we have a brand for our parks, right? How do we maintain our parks when people come in, they're saying, oh, yep, this is a Vermont State Park, and yep, this is maintained really well. And as you folks are pointing out, we have a lot of things that exist in multiple parks. We have things like contact stations and other structures. We have gates, we have flower beds, we have fences. So let's delve in a little bit. There's essentially 3 layers to the infrastructure in your park. And I do not believe there's a single park that has all of these things. So Lake Carmi is very close. So you've got your public facing structures. You've got things like toilet buildings, cottages, a nature center, your woodshed, docks, lean-tos, the things that the public are interacting with generally. These are the things that are of prime importance to keep well maintained. We also have some utility areas, and depending on your park, they may be well hidden or they may be right out in the open. So an example would be, to get to the ash pit at Grand Isle State Park, you got to make a couple wrong turns as a visitor. To get to the ash pit at Underhill, you got to just walk to the bathroom. So we still need to be really mindful of how we're maintaining these areas. And we do have written standards for most of these things, by the way, and they can be found on the staff website. Again, staff housing, it's going to depend how hidden that is. Niquette Bay or Aaron up at Smuggler's Notch, your house is the contact station. Other places, you are lucky and you have some really hidden away housing options. Though granted, I think you talk to most park managers and it doesn't matter how hidden away their house is, someone's going to be knocking on their door eventually. Then we have our utilities. Electricity, we've got our water systems, and we've got our wastewater systems. And these are really, these items are things that your maintenance tech will work with you on. And the standards for these things are generally rules and regulations. So I mentioned that we have written standards for a lot of things. They are on the staff website. It's a very long document. I figured I'd pull up one of our most simple standards that we have, which is for picnic charcoal grills. A Alternatively, we have ones like toilet building standards that that are 6 pages long. So this one is just 3 of them. I'm not going to read them to you. You guys should be able to read them yourself. But I'm going to ask quickly as a lightning round since we're running out of time a little bit. I'd love for you to throw into the chat numbers 1, 2, and 3. Let me know if you believe these meet standards or not based on the standards on the left. I'll give you like 10 seconds. Awesome. So I've got the chat pulled up on my phone so I can see it without making things smaller. So yeah, it looks like pretty much everyone has this right. Assuming that, the measurements are correct. Number 1 does meet the standard. Number 2 is crooked. And number 3 actually is a really old school style of grill that I believe is missing the heat resistant adjusting handles. So that was why that one is tagged. And we look at our standards. I also want to point out quickly that standards are aspirational. I can pretty much guarantee there is no park in our system that meets all these standards. These are just values that we're working towards. We certainly want things to not, fall further off the list. But we don't expect you, if you have 30 picnic charcoal grills, to be replacing every single one of them. That's not realistic with everything else you do. But we want the standards to inform the work that you do. And on top of meeting standards, we also want to kind of prioritize deficiencies in terms of planning out work. So this is a matrix we came up with, a couple years ago now. Let me just pull all of these up. So we have kind of categories of deficiencies. The most important one, things that need to be addressed right away, is if it's a safety violation or hazard. And Frank's going to go into that stuff a little bit more tomorrow, so I won't bore you with that today. Number 2 is if it's a code, regulation, or licensing violation. That also throws it right up to the top of the list. Number 3, if it's a compounding problem. And a good example of that you can see on the right, missing lean-to roof shingles would be considered a compounding problem. Because if you're missing shingles, it means your roof is going to start leaking eventually. And it's going to mean you're going to have a lot of rot. And all of a sudden, instead of replacing a few shingles, you're replacing an entire lean-to roof and potentially the structural aspect as well. Number 4 is if it directly impacts a visitor experience. Number 5 is if it has negative impact on environment, wildlife, and stewardship. And I will say it seems weird that this is so low down. And when we were putting this together, I think there was a lot of discussion about this item and where it's located. But the fact is, a lot of things that are environmental, wildlife, and stewardship related also come up as being code, regulation, or licensing violations. So for example, having a negative impact on the environment could be things like gravel runoff from a site into a nearby stream. Versus if you had, say, a sewage spill, that becomes a safety violation. And finally, degrading the visual aesthetic. How much time do we have left? We're almost out of time. We're pretty much out of time. So I just want to run through a couple of these really quickly with you, and then we'll finish off. Things like surface rust in a grill box would fall somewhere around 6A, maybe 6B. It could also be a compounding problem, right? Because rust is going to just keep rusting out until you have a hole. Things like a crooked tent site sign, if it's just crooked, you're probably in the degrading the visual aesthetic portion. But if it's crooked enough someone can't read it, you're probably up to number 4, directly impacting visitor experience. So again, this is just kind of an overview of how to prioritize some of the work, with a huge caveat that if it's something really easy to fix, even if it's low on the scale, just fix it. And I'm happy to answer any questions about this later on too. And John, you want to just cover the in conclusion?
Yes, I can. In conclusion, get out and explore your parks. Learn as much as you can about your park and the facilities you have. Walk your entire park. Try to see park through the eyes of the park visitor. Keep an eye out for issues as you start up your park. Check picnic tables as you put them out for maybe some long bolts or some rotted ends, table needs replacement, board replacement. Work with your maintenance technician and coordinator to coordinate to get materials if you need to, clarify or remediate any hazards, deficiencies in your park. Create project lists early in the season. Top priority is to maintain what you have. If you want to change anything about your appearance of your park, you must get regional improvement. And this is important because if maintenance staff can support you, we will if we have the time and ability to do it. So just plan that out ahead of time with your staff. That'd be awesome.
Cool. Well, that's the time we've got. So thank you guys very much for hanging in there.
All right. Thank you, John and Emily, so much. I had a couple questions. One about charcoal grills on accessible sites, and then who should we talk to about accessibility issues and standards. When you're doing your startup with your regional staff, that's a great place to bring that up. And also, I would just encourage you, you'll definitely be meeting a maintenance technician for training, but I can't speak enough good things about all the maintenance techs. So get to know them, offer to help them out, do some work with them and really get to know them, because they're an invaluable resource, and you may not even realize how much all of them do on a day-to-day basis. It's really remarkable what all the maintenance staff get done. So like Agnes said, your maintenance tech is your best asset. So if you have any other questions, I know that, we're the maintenance techs, and then also the Emilys of this world will be, there. And when you have your regional training, check in with them there and bring stuff up at startup. Emily had mentioned we got so much participation today that we have to go through the chat and do a tally, but fear not. I know the seltzer is getting out to the park, so we'll be doing a tally and announcing the winner in some place. Emily and John, thanks again. I hope you feel better, Emily. Congratulations on making it through. And everyone else, we have our regional breakouts, if your region is doing it, at 1:30 in about 5 minutes here. So we will see you all there. There's 4 different links, so just click on the one for your region. Thanks again.
Awesome. Thanks, Ryan.
See you.